Welcome to the Vernalizer Gadget deck profile. It's a very fun deck that I've been experimenting with, and it does have a few things going for it. For one, the Vernalizers discard themselves to do something and then special summon an Earth monster from the graveyard. So they constantly need something in the hand to discard to utilize their effects, and the gadgets just constantly give them new card advantage because they are also constantly being special summoned with the Vernalizer's effects. And yeah, the synergy between them is just absolutely great, and the fact that I'm locked into only using Earth effects for the rest of my turn is just not a huge hindrance for the gadgets. But this also means that I cannot run any of the other gadget supports like the Gold Gadget, Silver Gadget, Platinum Gadget, since they are not Earth. So without further ado, I am playing triple copies of Green Gadget, triple copies of Red Gadget, and triple copies of Yellow Gadget. I absolutely want to open up with at least one gadget plus one of the Searcher Vernalizers, so I'm running 3 of them to increase my consistency here. And why I wanted to open up with particularly this hand, you can check out my little 2-card combo that I already uploaded. Next, I'm running triple copies of Vernalizer Fairies of Hills and Blossoms. This card allows me to, of course, discard this card plus a gadget. Then I can search another Vernalizer, any of my Vernalizer monsters from my deck. Yeah, and as I've already said, you can then special summon your gadget. Next, I'm running triple copies of Vernalizer Fairy of Seedlings and Haze. This card is the other Vernalizer searcher, so in total I run 6 Vernalizers. This card can search me any Earth Fairy monster, but I'm currently not running any other Earth Fairy monster aside from my Vernalizers. And the sad thing is that this card is the only card not currently out in the TCG. But don't worry, we will have it very soon. It'll come out in Darkwing Blast, as far as I have informed myself. And yeah, as far as I know, it comes out in October, so in October we will be able to have this entire list fully playable. Next, I'm running triple Vernalizer Fairies of Forests and Awakening. This card allows me to mill any one Earth monster from my deck to the graveyard. I unfortunately cannot immediately revive it with its effect to special summon an Earth monster from my graveyard. I have to do it with something else. But this card perfectly sets up my Telefon plays, to which I will come later. And my last Vernalizers I'm playing is one copy of Flowers and Fields, as well as Mountains and Melting Snow. Mountains and Melting Snow has the second effect to draw me a card, and the Flowers and Fields allows me to add any one Earth monster from my graveyard into the hand. I'm mainly playing them as extenders. For example, if I already open up with 2 searchers in my hand, or one of the searchers plus my Foolish Burial Vernalizer here, then I can search any of the other 2, whichever I think is currently more useful. Usually it's the Melting Snow. Since it's overall just better to draw a card, I usually cannot do much with a Earth monster that I just added back into my hand. It's mainly in here because it's a different Vernalizer name, but by far is this particular Vernalizer the worst Vernalizer I'm running in this build. Now, for my Telefon package, Morphtronic Telefon is an absolutely crazy card. I don't know how it was possible that Konami just released it without any further consideration. The thing is, what Telefon allows me to do is, if it's in attack position, special summon another Telefon from my graveyard. Without any hard ones per turn. Its complete effect is I roll a dice and I gain life points equal to the result times 100, and I'm allowed to special summon any Morphtronic monster from my graveyard whose level equals or is lower than the result on the dice. So that basically means I'm guaranteed to be able to special summon another Telefon from the graveyard because it's for some reason a level 1 tuner monster as well. Yeah, it also has a neat defense position effect which I use towards the very end of the combo that allows me to stack 1 to 6 cards of my deck and allows me to then place them either on top or at the bottom of my deck. Yeah, it's just need to make sure that in the next turn I don't have a complete deck draw. Next I'm running 2 copies of Gadget Gamer. Cool name, by the way. Gadget Gamer allows me to, on normal summon, this is the only monster that particularly needs the normal summon, search for a level 1 machine monster for my deck. And its other effect is I can tribute this card from the field to special summon a Morphtronic monster from my hand, which of course is Morphtronic Telefon that I just searched, plus 1 Gadget Hauler from either my hand or my deck. Now, Gadget Hauler has historically been one of the worst Morphtronic support cards of all time, existing all the way back already in the 5Ds era. But thanks to Gadget Gamer, it actually became a relatively useful card. So yeah, what this card allows me to do is discard another Telefon from my hand. Its attack boost is irrelevant, but here's the thing. If I already control a Telefon because I special summon it with Gadget Gamer, and with that also my Gadget Hauler, and just discarded my other Telefon from my hand, I then get the infinite loop of Telefons going. I can immediately bring it back and do whatever I want with it. Next I'm running triple copies of Außer, the Earth Channeler. I am very surprised how affordable this card still is, but I recommend you get your hands on it very soon. What this card allows me to do is discard her plus any other Earth monster from my hand. Then I can search a monster from my deck whose type is the same type as one of the cards that I just discarded. So it's either a spellcaster plus any of the other types. In this case it would either just be a machine or just be a fairy. For example, I can discard my worst Vernalizer to actually get the important Vernalizer, or if I have 2 gadgets in my hand I can then get myself a Telefon, or if I don't have a Telefon, or if I have a Telefon but no gadgets, I can discard Telefon, get myself the gadgets, or if I don't need any of the Telefon or gadgets, I can get myself a Therian King Regulus.
No, I can actually not search a King Regulus because Außer can only search a monster with 1850 or less attack points. My mistake.
But more to him later. First I want to talk about something very funny, and that is the Symphonic package. The Symphonic Warrior Guitar and the Symphonic Warrior Mix. And here's the funny thing, even though I am locked into only being allowed to utilize Earth effects this turn, or I should say only activate Earth effects this turn, Guitar, when it is in the Pendulum scale, is no longer a monster card. Therefore, the restriction no longer actually applies, and I'm allowed to activate its Pendulum effect to discard a card and special summon another Symphonic Warrior from my deck. And another neat thing is Mike's allows me to have another normal summon the turn it was summoned. But the important part about that effect is this effect does not activate, it just happens, and therefore is also not affected by the Vernalizer restriction. And therefore I can utilize my normal summon for something else first before I summon my Gadget Gamer, and yeah, still have a normal summon left for my Gadget Gamer. And the final monster I'm playing is Therian King Regulus. Here's the thing. This deck has some pretty major weaknesses, and one of these weaknesses is Nibiru. Given the fact that you cannot activate non-Earth effect monsters' effects this turn you activated a Vernalizer, you cannot utilize any of your Omni Negates or Monster Negates or whatever else you get on the board until your opponent's turn. So pretty much at the end of your entire combo, when you already control everything, your opponent could then throw out a Nibiru and you cannot do anything against it. And at the very least, Theory King Regulus allows me to negate that Nibiru. And I recommend only using this card against Nibiru or during the opponent's turn to negate something. You can usually play through smaller hand traps, through 1 or 2 hand traps like an Ash Blossom, Ogre you don't care too much about. You can also potentially play through Effect Rail and so much else, but you just cannot win against Nibiru if you don't have the Ethereum King Regulus. But if you cannot afford this card, this deck is still very fun to play. Next, I'm running triple copies of Pot of Avarice. I'm just having a lot of fun with this card. I know it's not at all necessary, but it potentially allows me to special summon both my level 10 and my level 9 synchro in one turn, and just do a lot more. You will see that in one of the replays. Next, I'm playing a Morphtronic Convert unit. This card has 2 very neat effects. Both of them I definitely am happy for that they are on the same card. So what this card allows me to do is I target a machine monster, and if it's in attack position, I can then special summon my Morphtronic Telefon from my deck. And if the targeted monster was in defense position, and the target monster gets back in on top of my deck, sorry, I forgot about that. So yeah, and if the targeted monster was in defense position, I switch it back into attack position, and then I'm allowed to special summon any level 4 or lower machine monster from my hand. So, for example, I special summon a Gadget in defense position with the Vernalizer effect, just switch it back into attack position and special summon another Gadget, get another search off. Maybe you then go into my Gear Giant. I think you will see that as well. So both of these effects of this card are absolutely fantastic. For the extra deck, I run 1 Baron the Fleur, which is an Omni Negate and a pop, and I summon her by utilizing my Morphtronic Telefon and my Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. This card allows me to is also an Omni Negate for monsters on the field, and if for some reason I already utilized the effect of Baron the Fleur either before or during the standby phase, I can immediately take her out and should summon my Hot Red from the graveyard to still have an Omni Negate on board. And of course I often need to summon my Hot Red first, so I utilize my Morphtronic Telefon and my Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. It wasn't really that important for me which Dark Dragon I'm using, but I believe that this is pretty much one of the best I could have chosen. And in order to summon him, I utilized both my Morphtronic Telefon and my Wind Pegasus Adagnista. I was previously using a different level 7 synchro, which you will see in the replays. But Wind Pegasus is just another disruption against my opponent. If my opponent destroys something, I can shuffle something from my opponent's field back into his deck. Yeah. And so, in order to summon him, I utilize him plus a level 6 synchro monster, which in this case is Gaia Armor. Or I can summon him using my Telefon and my Gadget Holder, since it's also level 6. But Gaia Armor is also a card that I can summon in this deck and has a potentially useful effect in this deck during the turn it was summoned. I'm allowed to tribute this card and shuffle 3 synchro monsters from my graveyard back into my extra deck, which of course allows me to then summon other more big synchro monsters onto the end board. It also has a graveyard effect, which isn't that useful. I can equip it to a monster special summon from the extra deck, and if that monster battles, I draw a card. A much more important extra deck monster is Naturia Beast, which I definitely leave on the field. It can be any deck that can summon Naturia Beast should summon Naturia Beast, since this is just an absolute blowout card against a lot of decks. Sky Strikers, completely dead. I also cannot imagine that Branded Despia would really have a way to effectively deal with Naturia Beast. So this card, absolutely fantastic. But of course I need to run other level 5 synchro monsters as well in this deck, so I'm running 2 super heavy Samurai Swordsmaster Musashi. What a mouthful. So, what this card allows me to do outside of the standard super heavy samurai effect of attacking while in defense is I'm allowed to add any one machine monster from my graveyard back into my hand. And it does come with the downside that if a spell or trap card was in my graveyard when I used this effect, I cannot summon a monster with the same name for the rest of the turn, which usually I already cannot do anymore. It's just follow-up play. Yeah, it's just more advantage for the following turn. So, but the question is, why am I running two of them? I mean, if I want to go into my Baron de Fleur, I just need potentially the gadget plus 2 Telefons, so that I can use 1 Telefon to summon him, use another, bring Telefon back, and so on and so forth, make the loop, and synchro climb up until I have the level 10. So the second copy of him I'm running because of the Cyber Dragon Infinity package, for which I need 2 level 5 machine monsters, which I'm only running the 2 of in my extra deck plus my 1 copy of Mix. And yeah, it's just another Omni Negate, and just like Baron de Fleur allows me to in my turn get rid of another card on the field, and this time by attaching it as Axis material. It's a little bit harder to bring out than some of the other monsters in the deck, but it can definitely happen, and I really just love this card. I really wanted to run this. Next I'm running 2 Gear Giant X. Gear Giant X allows me to search for any level 4 or lower machine monster from my deck, which basically means I'm searching myself Gadget Gamer or Symphonic Guitar. Well, and yeah, I'm basically running 2 of them because this also is another negate on board, because I'm running a little Utopic Future package. I summon Utopic F0, number F0 Utopic Future by using both of my Gear Giant X, and then place on top of that my number F0 Utopic Draco Future, which allows me to negate a monster effect, and if I negate the effect of a monster on the field, I can take control over it. Yeah, it also cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect, which is also very neat. And the last monster I'm playing is Liverlusk Ensemble Robin. What she allows me to do is, if my opponent special summons a monster, I can detach an Axis material and bounce that monster. And the effect is, funny enough, not a hard once per turn as far as I can read. I summon her at the very end of my combo when I no longer can synchro climb up with my Morphtronic Telefon combo anymore, and in that case I just use Telefon to special summon the last Telefon in defense, stack my deck, and then go into my Ensemble Robin to just have 2 more disruptions. And that is the entire deck as I am currently running it. Next, in the side deck there are just a bunch of cards that I have previously ran but decided not to play anymore. Maybe there are some cards that you want to try out in your builds, which is why I left them in the side deck. I can absolutely recommend trying this deck out. It's, as I've said, it's really fun for me personally, and I think that you might enjoy it as well. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the deck profile, and now I will show you some replays I did in solo modus. Enjoy!